Good morning everyone. I am P.M.Sudha, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Bishop Weber College. In this class, I am going to explain about the rich history of translation. Before that, we have to realize and we have to know about the term translation studies. So, the term translation studies proposed by the Belgian writer Lefebvre, that is André Lefebvre. He focuses on the intricacies of translations, and he also focuses on the challenges that faced by the translators while they are going for translation, such as the nuances in culture and linguistic challenges and accuracy and fluency, everything. And it focuses on various fields such as theory of translation and theory of history and theory of criticism in translation, everything. And also he, in the term translation studies, focuses on cultural context and technological approach in translation studies. And so the history starts from Bible translation, and the role and function of translation has varied by the distinction between word for word and sense for sense translation. As we saw before, the persecution of Bible translators during the centuries when scholars were avidly translating and retranslating classical Greek and Roman authors, which means the persecution of Bible translation challenged the power structure and church authority, and it empowered the ordinary people to lead and reach the religious text personally. And the next one is hermeneutic approach of great English and German Romantic translators. So the Romantic translators focuses on the deep interpretation, which means the hermeneutic approach. Hermeneutic approach means deep interpretation in religious text. That is what the Romantic authors approached in translations. And problems of period study. These are problems of period study. In the previous slide, we saw that the hermeneutic approach, which means the deeper interpretation on religious text, that is the author says that the translators should not be merely as a mediators from the target language, source language from target language. They have to go for critical analysis and reach the exact cultural context when they are going for translation. So some of the problems while they are going for translation is, the first is problem of period study. So the author George Steiner practice and history of translation in 4 periods. So he classified the problems in 4 periods, and he has given some challenges in translation in 4 periods. The first period is, he claims, extends from the statement of Cicero and Horace. So Cicero and Horace are the great important figures in Roman history, and they have written the challenges faced by the translators in his works. And George Steiner covered the period from Cicero and Horace to Alexander Fraser Tytler's essay on the principles of translation in 1791. So the statement given by Cicero and Horace covered in this first period. In the second period, Steiner runs up the publication of Laubert Source L Invocation de Saint Jerome. The English version of this title is Under the Invocation of Saint Jerome. It's a notable contribution to translation studies. So the important thing in the second period is characterized as a period of theory and hermeneutic inquiry, which the development of the vocabulary and methodology of approaching translation. So the practical challenge while the translator face when they go for translation is the vocabulary, the exact vocabulary in the cultural context. So they are in need of come out with the exact and unique vocabulary during translation studies. And scholars were working to articulate the concepts and methods necessary to analyze and perform translation effectively. So the methodology and creating unique vocabulary is the most important thing. So this is the The second period focuses on the specialized vocabulary and methodologies in translation, that is characterized as a period of theory and hermeneutic inquiry with the development of the vocabulary and methodology of approaching translation, which means Steiner says that the unique vocabulary is very important and the methodology is also very important while they go for the hermeneutic inquiry. So that is deeper interpretation. Hermeneutic means deeper interpretation, so that the deeper interpretation requires the exact vocabulary in cultural context and religious context, as well as the methodology is also very important. Then scholars were working to articulate the concepts and methods necessary to analyze and perform translation effectively. So the scholars of that period working for the exact vocabulary for that and enriching the vocabulary in enriching the vocabulary for hermeneutic inquiry. The third period begins with the publication of the first papers on machine translation into 1940s. So this is the transition, because this is the transition from traditional translation studies to the machine translation. So the scientific approach, they gave importance to scientific approach, which means the language analyzed in the scientific context and how the language can be systematically analyzed in scientific context. So this is what this period focuses on. And this period characterized by the introduction of structural linguistics and communication theory into the study of translation. So they give importance to structural linguistics and communication theory. So this is the scientific approach of translation studies, which means the language can be analyzed in scientific way and provided insights into how language system could be systematically analyzed and compared, which was crucial for machine translation. So this is the transition period, so that the machine translation is not able to cover the whole cultural context. The third period is a transition period, which means the complete transition from the traditional translation studies to scientific translation, which means the period characterized by the introduction of structural linguistics and communication theory into the study of translation. So the machine translation, the scientific translation focuses on the structural analysis of the language, and the next one is it provides insights into how language system could be systematically analyzed and compared, which was crucial for machine translation. So the scientific for the scientific translation, the cultural context, the exact vocabulary or the equivalent words for cultural things, it's not able to provided by the machine, so that it's a complete transition. It's a very challenging activity for the translators in that period. And the fourth period, Steiner fourth period coexisting with the third, has its origin in the early 1960s. It characterized by a reversion to hermeneutic, almost metaphysical inquiries into translation and interpretation. It contrasts to the earlier period, to the third period, which means they give importance to deep interpretation in hermeneutic inquiry, whereas the third period focuses on machine translation, that is the scientific translation, but the fourth period focuses on the philosophical and abstract contexts, and return to the renewed emphasis on hermeneutics, the study of interpretation, especially of text. The next one is the period was marked by the philosophical and abstract discussions about the nature of translation and interpretation. So the fourth period focuses on abstract qualities in the source language. The abstract quality should be clearly translated to the target language, so that this is the main challenge faced by the translators. So this is all about the fourth period. And these limitations and challenges of using strict periodization. Pass. After classifying these four periods, Steiner focuses on the limitations and challenges of using strict periodizations. So Steiner's four divisions of classification is unique or unconventional, but he focuses on strict periodization, because this is also one of the concept the translator has to focus while the translator focusing works. And and next one is it avoids common problem of rigidly dividing literary and cultural history into distinct periods. So these 4 periods avoids the common problem by rigidly dividing the ages. That is, the periodization is the practice of dividing history into discrete periods based on certain characteristics or dates, but this approach has its limitation. So he is telling that the periodization of ages, that is the Romantic age and the Jacobean age, it has some limitations. So it's very difficult to set boundaries for such ages. So he is telling that the boundaries cannot be set exactly because culture is dynamic and culture is evolving to the next ages. So it carried over to the next period. So it is difficult for the translator to translate the cultural context, the text in a cultural context, because culture is dynamic. The next one is he is telling that the challenges of periodization by pointing out the difficulties in defining the exact beginning and end of the Renaissance. He has taken example for the Renaissance period. So he is telling that the challenges of periodization. So there is no exact beginning and end of the Romantic age because it has carried over to the next age also. So it is very difficult for them to conclude which one is beginning and which one is ending. So it affects the cultural context of the translators to the target language. And the Renaissance was a complex and gradual cultural movement that did not begin or end abruptly. That is what I explained already. Then next is Steiner's divisions of translation history into 4 periods might be seen unusual or non-traditional. It effectively avoids the problems associated with the strict periodization. So he proposes the strict periodization. Because a translator cannot take a period of history into forward or backward. So there is a need of strict periodization to have the at least a particular exactness of the translation in target language. And his approach also allows for a more nuanced understanding of translation history, reflecting its complexity and the interplay of various factors over time. There are so many factors are there because the accuracy and fluency and the cultural context is also very, very important while the translator going for translation. So when they translate a work from source language, source text to target language text, it is very, very important to focus on the cultural context. So it reflects, every literary work reflects the cultural ideas of that period. So it's very, very important. There is a need for limitation in periodization. And he concludes, the conclusion of this 4 divisions pass. So the conclusion history of translation is Steiner's classification of 4 periods, that is the emergence and deeper interpretation and the practical challenges and the transition period from the traditional way of translation to scientific way of translation and the deeper interpretation in philosophy and abstract concepts. And also he speaks about rigid periodization, which is very, very important for cultural context. And next one is he is telling the reason, that is dynamic nature of cultural history, because culture is dynamic, it's not static, it grows and evolves over a period of time. So that this is the reason for periodization should be in rigid. And he giving the example for the Renaissance, the age of Renaissance, because the age cannot be concluded, the age cannot be set boundary, an age cannot be set a boundary, this is what the age. So that he is giving the example of Renaissance. And this is what all about the history of translation studies. Thank you. Thank you.